It's an icy March morning, but we're excited to have some sunshine. Dora, you look like you're floating on a cloud with the sunshine coming in, the rays on you and your blue background. So maybe we'll all get an early spring from Dora's predictions down there. And happy to have you here for another little podcast with us. And as always, we'll start out with our icebreakers. And so, wondering today, if your life had a narrator, whose voice would it be?
Can I answer this? Oh, I don't really know a specific person, but I think it would just be like a lady running on a treadmill and like speaking as fast as she can. That's like my vision. I don't know any specific person, but that's my vision.
I like that description.
I haven't.
Go
I don't
ahead.
know I don't know if anyone's ever watched New Girl, but Nick Miller, I think his name is Jake Johnson. Yeah, Jake Johnson because I think he's funny. It would be funny for him to narrate.
I was gonna go similar to Dora. I don't have a person, but I feel like it's someone that needs to be talking fast while also like doing several things in the background. Like you can hear them like doing stuff in the background as like narrating is like a second task to them. Like they're doing other things, but they're
Mm,
also narrating my life, you know? It's like bring the chaos into the narrating.
okay. Is it Riley, is it a male or female voice or it doesn't matter for you?
I'm not sure if that really matters. I just need the chaos is what I'm after.
Okay. So I feel like mine, and I'm not, it's like either Lorelai Gilmore or Amy Sherman Palladino. I need that like super fast pace with the sarcasm and like the witty ability to make fun of oneself and others
She's
mixed in.
perfect. She's perfect. Lorelai Gilmore.
I have two for different reasons, so I'm gonna go with both of them. Um, First of all, maybe Matthew McConaughey, simply because if anybody has listened to the Audible recording of his autobiography, his voice is just so soothing and calming, and I just love it. And he's funny, and so him, or possibly, probably more likely, Melissa McCarthy, but specifically like her character from The Heat specifically with that like egregious Boston accent and just like completely off the cuff chaos, specifically that character.
I like that one for you, Mariah. That's good.
There's this guy on Instagram that I don't know his name, and I was just trying to find it. Um, who is he's like super super gay. And I mean like in a flamboyant way, like in that I am told many times that like I am reminded people of him. So and the way that he talks and the way that he describes things is very much I have sent people many videos and just been like, this is me. This is exactly me. So, you guys might end up getting one later because I can't remember his name and I can't, I, I think it's valid.
I was just gonna ask if you could share it in the group chat, Lauren. So,
I
all
will.
right. Excellent.
I think for myself, the I would just say like the voice in general would be like asthmatic, out of breath, trying to just say it all.
I just pictured like someone with COPD like dragging an asthma oxygen tank, Michelle.
I'm just saying, I mean, sometimes I sound like that already. It's just I just feel like that would be the person narrating my life. Coughing, out of breath, wheezing, all of that. All of the above.
I
Trying to make
also
it
feel
work.
like, but I feel like I'm not, Michelle, and I don't want to project on you, but I've known you for so long. I also feel like you need someone that's so sweet and caring narrating your life because that's you. Like maybe Betty White with like COPD or something.
Yeah.
I actually found a video that I have saved to my phone to send to people from the beginning of the year. Can I show you? Can I show that it's appropriate? It's a New Year's resolution.
I, yeah, I mean, as long as it's appropriate, Lauren, I'm all for it.
It is. It's very funny. Um, it's this guy from Instagram.
Mm.
And he's like, oh,
2026, new year, new me. I'm not gonna be a hater. I'm not gonna hate from afar. I'm gonna be a lover. But we're a few days in. I'm looking around. I'm like, I'm not so sure that like that's me. And at the end of the day, I gotta be me.
Okay, the
that's
answer is
me.
yes. I could absolutely appreciate him being the narrator for your existence. 100%. Charisma, it's all you. You're the only one left.
I don't know. I- It's not something I ever really thought about before, and I'm really weird when it comes to like actors and actresses, like or like people online. Like I feel like I would want myself to narrate my life versus like anybody else, because like I don't know what y'all talk about. Like in regards to like other people, I know what I'm talking about. So yeah.
That's a fair answer. You're gonna narrate yourself. I love it. All right. So that was fun, Lauren. Thank you for the playback. I love that too. That's new. We should incorporate that more often. Uh, today I want to, before we start, I want to kind of give us a little bit of uh, set us up with a mindset, and talk about what is the difference when we think about things and look through a certain lens. And so if we have the mindset of what's wrong versus what happened, what is the difference between those two mindsets for you when you're looking at behaviors? What's wrong versus what happened?
I feel like my initial reaction is that what's wrong already sort of implies a value judgment of something negative, as opposed to what happened leaves a little bit more room for a neutral value judgment to be applied.
I love that, Mariah. Anybody else? Yeah, I feel, Mariah, to your point, like what happened and put kind of gets defenses up initially, right? Like, or right versus, excuse me, what happened lowers defenses, whereas, you know, what's wrong implies that there's there's something awry. You did something or um, you failed in some way. And so for today, I want to come at things from that what happened mindset. We know that behavior is a communication and that we try and emphasize that children are, or the youth we're placing, are not intentionally giving caregivers a difficult time, that they may not have the words for things, right? And so that is where we come at it from the what happened? What triggered this? What is the child trying to communicate? Um, what from their past is underneath all of this behavior? And so my question to specifically the FFT staff is, does this reframe, does this mindset fit with that FFT model?
Yes, for me, because there's always something behind the behavior. Or like for example, if a youth is like yelling or arguing, what's behind that? Because they're com that behavior is them trying to communicate that they're feeling unheard. To me, that's how I view it. And then I go in deeper into that because that's usually when you like the behaviors are a way for them to communicate something that they're feeling that they don't know how to express.
Ah,
And also
okay. So,
whether, go
yeah,
ahead.
Riley, please.
I was going to say whether you are viewing the behavior as good or bad, it's likely that that behavior has worked for them in the past. And being able to recognize that although yelling is not a great form of communication, if it worked for 10 years of your life, you're going to go back to what you know, whether it's instinctively or inherently or like right or wrong behavior. It's just what you know at the end of the day and what's gotten you this far.
Yeah, Riley, that's such a great point. Our youth have generally functioned on survival skills. And so this behavior has somehow benefited them in the past. And we may not understand what benefit it was to them. And circling back to Talia's point, they may not be able to tell us what it was, but we have to understand that there was some benefit to it. Any other thoughts?
I think taking it a step even farther, as far as like the FFT model specifically, it's uncovering sort of that what's going on behind the scenes with the behavior is really that start of reducing some of that blame, right? Because it's easy to get upset and frustrated at a kid who's yelling and screaming, but it helps reduce that blame to understand that they're yelling and screaming because they're scared, because they don't know what is happening next, or whatever the case may be. There's 100 different things it could be, but understanding that piece is really where that blame starts to get reduced, and we're able to do some of that work with everybody together in the home to address it.
So talking with everybody about how these behaviors had some they're adaptive, not challenging or not defiant, not oppositional, and that actually they may be signs of resilience, right? That this child has been able to figure out how to survive. And how does FFT work to help the parents decode these behaviors? How do we work to get underneath that? Because I know, I mean, Talia, you said it. We don't always have words. I'm an adult and I don't always have the words, right? Emotions, words, feelings, they can be hard.
I think it depends, first of all, on the age of the kid, because that's a big piece of this. But I think a lot of our work, specifically in FFT, is yes, we are helping foster parents understand, but we are also trying to help that kid understand too. So we are having those conversations where sometimes it's us guessing, sometimes it's us saying, listen, I know this is coming across as screaming and yelling and angry, but is it more that you are just afraid because you don't know what's going to happen next with mom or dad or whatever the case may be? Am I right? Am I right? And asking those questions to get that kid to understand what's going on for them too. And subsequently, right, doing that in front of foster parents so that they also are able to be a part of that process and hear it.
Others?
Like
I was gonna
Mariah
say like,
said, oh,
oh,
sorry, Chris, but you could go first.
okay. I was gonna say like a lot of like, for example, like some of the conversations that I have with foster parents, specifically depending on the age of the kid, is like kind of breaking it down a little bit and being like, okay, like I hear you, and like what's going on? Like how can we explain this? Like what are some of the pieces that are backing this up? Like, kind of going over like, okay, we know it's a trauma response, like it's not necessarily about you, and kind of like breaking down some of the pieces and helping them look at it objectively versus like feeling so almost like targeted in the moment. Like, yes, we're allowed to vent, we're allowed to have those moments and feel frustrated. There's nothing wrong with that, but sometimes you just have to take that step back and really work through what's going on versus just being stuck on like the actual behavior. So
Thanks, Charisma. And I think you're right. Sometimes we all get stuck, right? Parents, kids, professionals alike. Talia.
I was gonna say, like Mariah said, like just like identifying a possible meaning behind that behavior to the boss, like the family as a whole, and like trying to see like ask like Mariah said, asking them like, do you think it could be possibly because of this? Or like, and then youth usually say like, yeah, like that is, and they like when we identify like that this behavior is because of this, and they realize like I haven't been able to say this because they haven't been able to put in their own words like what's going on.
So I would love to take a minute and think about some of the most common um, things we see that are labeled challenging behaviors and think about what are some of those underlying causes that you see most often. And so, if I said, as a foster parent to you, this child is lying, they're constantly telling stories, they're constantly telling me things that are untrue, what are some of your thoughts about the most common things underlying that? Understanding that every case is different and what we say here is not going to apply across the board. But what would, Talia, you're talking about asking that youth, hey, could it possibly be this? What are some of those things that you would ask about?
Speaking specifically to lying, I think I would start with fear of getting in trouble, fear of getting rejected, fear of getting kicked out. Um, I think that's where I would start is with fear specifically.
Anybody else have other ones for lying? Okay. Um, what about, I hate to label it stealing, but taking things without permission, I don't just mean like going out and stealing the car. I mean, taking, um, taking the the Xbox from this room to that room, or um, taking money out of a purse. Those type, I'm not talking about huge arrestable offenses. I'm talking lower level.
For the money, I would say that it goes back to maybe they're trying to provide for themselves. Maybe it's, I'm going to use this money for food or I'm going to use this money for clothes for school. They're not taking it with the intention to like, oh, I'm going to steal money. I'm going to use this money for something because I'm used to taking care of myself. So I'm going to continue to take care of myself. And it also puts them in control a little bit. You know, if it's my money now, I can go buy the food I want or the clothes I want or something that I feel I want or need in the moment. I think it goes back to, yeah, the control and having some unknown in the past of where your next meal is going to come from or your next clean pair of shoes are going to come from. So by you taking the money, it's now in your control.
But yeah, I was to piggyback off that, I was gonna say too, even for like things like maybe sneaking an Xbox in the bedroom or stealing a tablet to have in the bedroom. I think for me, my first question is about that control, right? It's about are they looking for ways to manage an environment in which they have no control, right? They've been removed from parents, they've been bumped around to foster homes. So are they looking to exert control around just things that they perceive they can do?
I like that there's two things there, right? And so maybe we need to ask some more questions and to get underneath that. Thank you. What about aggression?
I think this could sometimes go back to that's the only thing they know, and whether it's bad or good, it's worked. I'm aggressive and I get what I want. And it can also be just a lack of knowing another way to get what you want, a lack of knowing a skill to communicate with someone in a more like proper way. So just going back to what they know and just being the unknown of what else I can do to properly communicate with someone.
For me, I kind of think about like, could this be like a defense? Like, maybe in the past, have they dealt with some sort of physical abuse? And, now this is how they kind of defend themselves as a way to avoid some of that. Or, maybe they were bullied in school or something along the lines, and like, this is what they know and what they've been taught. And what they rely on, kind of like what Riley said, and they don't really know any other way. So, yeah.
I may be reaching here, but we're not talking about a specific example. And I think it proves the point that there could be, like Talia was saying earlier, there's a lot of guesses we have to give sometimes to get to the bottom of it. But I think, too, for aggression, I think, is it a form of protection in the sense that not physically, but emotionally, right? If they know that aggression is going to make a foster parent mad or piss a foster parent off and kick them out, is it a form of, I'm going to push you to do that before you can do that to me? So is it a means of protecting themselves from being hurt, from becoming too attached, from settling in, whatever that might look like?
So we have so many of these underlying reasons. How do we work to, for us and for a foster parent, work to translate these behaviors, get underneath what's happening, and not be reactive? Because we talk about don't take it personally, but that's so much easier to say to someone than to not do. Because in that moment, it feels so personal. So what are some strategies around how to get underneath these, how to handle it, and try to interpret these behaviors?
I think it is sometimes asking questions, certainly maybe not in a moment for foster parents when things are escalated, but later talking about what was really going on here. I know you said it was about this, but I'm wondering if it could have been about this. I'm wondering if it could have been about this. I think again, having some of those conversations when things are calm, is helpful. Because like Talia was saying, I think a lot of times in the moment, sure, they're upset because of X, Y, and Z, but deep down they know that's not really what they're upset about. And sometimes they just don't have the ability to say it. So when somebody else says it for them, that's helpful.
I think
And
for me, one of the biggest things I talk about with the parents is that regulation of themselves and how much we don't think that kids or youth feed off of us, but they do co-regulate. Um, Even as adults, we co-regulate off of our partners, off of our coworkers, and so that co-regulation for me is a big part of not being, of trying to not be reactive.
When I talk to families, I always tell them like we're not here to blame each other, we're here to listen to each other and work through problems as a family. So I always try to make them focus like let's like try to tell them what I see that's going on and have them like listen to me. And they always take that in a good way, like saying like, yeah, we're not here to blame each other. Like they understand that we're the whole purpose of it is to work as a family to get to what's going on underneath that, like, you know?
I really like that saying. That's such a good framework for coming to the table and talking about things and having that predictability of knowing that you can that there's a way to talk about things without feeling like you're always at fault. I think that that's a great strategy, Talia.
Yeah, similar to that, I like the phrase like it takes two to argue, but that means it also takes two to get to make things work. And it's harder to be the bigger person, but it takes two to do everything. So, someone has to at the end of the day back away, but then come back together to make it all work. Both can be true. It takes two to do everything. So we have to, like Talia said, work together to get to what the root of the problem is so we can all really understand each other better.
Connection heals. Um,
Can I piggyback really quick? So, Mindy, you were
please.
talking about like co-regulation and how like as the adult and the foster parent, like you have to be a little more self-aware at those times. And I feel like something that's really important that I always try to get across when I speak with the foster parents is just really checking in with them and like how they're doing and having them focus on like some of the skills that they have utilized to be more supportive, not just them, the children, but like of themselves as well. Because it's like we're human, like we're all important, and yes, like it's hard to be a parent, but you also have to take care of yourself. And if you're not doing that, those small things like taking deep breaths, taking a break, taking space, whatever it is, you're going to kind of overwhelm yourself. And, a lot of the conversations that I've had, even when a child dysregulates, it's like, hey, like, how are you doing? Like, are you okay? Like, what skills did you use? Awesome. You're doing great. Like, whatever. So I think that's really, really important is making sure that they're also using the skills that we implement in the home. Like, yeah, like we give you a behavior chart as an example, but what can we do for you too to help you in these situations? So, yeah.
And Charisma, I really like that you call them skills because these things aren't necessarily instinctual. You have to put effort and work into them. And it truly is a skill.
That's what I was just gonna say too. I was gonna piggyback off of what Charisma said, because that's the human side to this too, right? We can tell foster parents tell, listen, this kid is leashing? No. This kid is lashing out at you because they're trying to protect themselves because they're afraid you're gonna be somebody else that lets them down, disappoints them. A foster parent can hear that, understand it, accept it, but it doesn't change that when this kid is screaming and yelling and lashing out at you, that's hard. That's hard to navigate and work through. And so I think going back to what Charisma said, like giving yourself that grace to understanding what's going on behind the behaviors, sure, we can understand it, but it doesn't change the need in the moment to take care of yourself, practice those skills, do those things for yourself to help work through what that's going to feel like in the moment.
And we're all here to support and help. And so I hope that after today, your curiosity is piqued about what is underneath all of these behaviors, and that you'll take a moment and look at some of these behaviors differently. Thanks for joining us this month, and we'll see you soon.